The recording has started now, and everybody in the call is informed and has consented to it. So, hello, Erin. I'm Maria. I work for Edgeryders as a community journalist and manager and art and design researcher. I usually also work from a co-working space here in Stockholm, and I'm very, very interested in hearing your story about how you're developing co-working and why. And yeah, it would be great if you could start by introducing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. And yeah, happy to talk to you all the way over in Sweden. So my name is Erin Westover, and I work with Upflex. We're a New York-based company. However, I'm based in Berlin. And of course, at the moment, we are 100% remote. But our shtick, if you will, is that we love to promote flexible work styles. That includes co-working. We're huge advocates for co-working spaces. And of course, remote work and any kind of work that encompasses allowing people to work from where they need to, or which makes them, more productive and provides professional environments. So what I do specifically for Upflex is that I partner with spaces all over the world. So we have more than 4,000 space partners and more than 8,000 spaces on our platform that we partner with for people that need hot desks or private offices or meeting rooms. And what we do is we actually package that and promote it to companies that are looking to implement more of a flexible work environment within their companies, especially during the last couple of years. People have been coming away from the headquartered model, of having like actual locations where they send their employees to. And so we're creating a new product that allows them to let people work from where they need to, and create meeting areas rather than a place that you have to be located every day 9 to 5, as well as commuting to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do I understand correctly that actually companies and small teams are among your main clients or members?
Yeah, so typically platforms like us, there are other ones out there. However, they're more geared toward freelancers or individuals looking for spaces or kind of building their company. We work with established companies and enterprise companies. So large teams that are essentially, maybe they have locations all over the world and they have headquarters in many cities. And instead of, having an office building for 200 people in the middle of Manhattan, why not allow for people to work in Williamsburg and work in Brooklyn and not have to take the trains right into the city center, right? So creating an option like that, or of course, if you want to hire remotely, but still give someone the option to work from a professional environment that suits their job role or suits their working style. Yeah.
That's great. So what key role does technology play in these co-working spaces that you're offering to these distributed teams and companies?
So again, we are a technology platform.
Mm-hmm.
So it is an application that allows for companies, they can white label the app to, like, let's use Coca-Cola, for example. They're not a client of ours, but let's hope one day they might be. But we could brand the app to have, Coca-Cola logos. So when the employee is logging in, they're going to see that it's a company app rather than, they're just using the third-party Upflex. So it's integrated with their culture. That's the idea. And then this app communicates with all of our spaces. It notifies them when people are coming and allows them to control their inventory online. So it's definitely like a workspace that is put online until you actually physically go and check into the location. Mm. With regards to technology and how that interacts, there's a lot of ways that co-working spaces are using technology in order to, mitigate certain issues or just make the experience a lot more simplified. Mm-hmm. So we're of course looking to do integrations in the future, but there are inventory controls where they can put those online and have providers like us be able to tap into their inventory and what's available in their space, whether it be meeting rooms, private offices, or hot desking. So there is that component. There's also accessible options. So using keyless entry, you can do that through the app, and that can be integrated with their own systems that are in their building. So people can walk in, have a touchless system, and they know that that person has entered the building through those integrations. So technology plays a really big role in how co-working spaces are trying to develop like the best experience possible, the most seamless experience possible. And of course, it is the future, and I think people are really drawn to that aspect of things. And when we're trying to develop a new work style, that's always of interest to us, using technology, whether it be for data or information, and as well as making the process a lot more simplified.
So would you say you are a technology platform first and foremost that then works with co-working spaces and the companies working there, enabling them to connect?
Absolutely. So we don't have a product other than that. Everything else like our inventory doesn't belong to us. So it's all independent operators or business centers. They own their own real estate. So we provide essentially a platform for all of those communications to happen. So we are definitely first and foremost a technology platform.
Okay, great. Like in that context, I would be very curious about what happened to you when, well, COVID hit and everybody had to rely highly on those technologies to get connected. Did you see any shifts? How are you going from here? What changed?
Yeah, so this is going to be a long-winded story because it comes in a lot happened since COVID. But
I'm happy to hear it.
yeah, as you know, like the remote working industry, we're really pushing our ideals, and we see that this is going to be the future. And so our product was a little bit early, right? So when people are coming in and we're speaking to companies, they didn't see that this would be an option for them. So it was a lot of preaching that goes on and teaching people and helping them understand, yeah, this is a great option for your company. And even talking to the spaces and seeing if this is something that would be valuable to them. And then all of a sudden COVID hits, and then we got launched right onto the front lines of people realizing, okay, we don't want to have a 10-year lease anymore with our company. That's way too expensive. Here we are locked in, we can't get out of a lease. We need something more flexible. Not only that, these companies are experiencing remote work for the first time in some cases, right? Because all of their teams were just, sent home to work, and they're trying to navigate how Zoom works and how they can still run their companies without being in each other's space, right? So all of that happened, which immediately created inquiries for us and how companies are planning for the future. And so both on the space side and the client side, we've really had a huge influx of people inquiring about our company and fully understanding and embracing what it is that we were trying to bring to the market. So that's a really huge deal. So that actually, like our projections, the statistics we had, all of the information that we had, and as a group in the remote work industry, I think we're projecting this to be more realistic for next year. I don't think that we were really, anticipating this quickly, all these companies going, hey, wait a minute, yeah, this works. So that was the first thing for our product, which of course is a really good thing for us. It's too bad that it had to be such a horrible incident for people to realize this. So that was the first thing that happened. And then internally, we preach remote work, but I'm going to be honest that our company still required a lot of attendance. So the New York office, they have a small team there, and our CEO, Christoph, really liked people coming into the office because he's that kind of person. He's really social. He likes to brainstorm and be there in person. I've been remote the entire time that I've worked for Upflex, but all of our team was forced to go remote and start testing what it is that we do and testing our model. And I must say, it's been a really big surprise to Christoph as well that we all really came together. We made it work, and we were all way more productive. So as much as they don't want to admit it, it really, really changed things. And I also was way more pulled into the team, more included in the team, because all of us were online and there and present instead of, our weekly meeting or catch up. So that was a really great learning experience for us. And I know that that's something we're going to carry forward now. And Christoph is converted into yeah, however you guys want to work, like let's actually practice what we preach. So that happened. And then from there, we created a really amazing product out of this. So of course you have to be working on your toes. Like how are we going to be in the COVID, like post COVID-19 world? How is that going to look and function? And it ended up that we created a program called Safe Spaces, and we created a seal in partnership with Colliers International, which is a major real estate brokerage company. And they saw the benefit of our product. And what we decided is, or what we realized is that people are going to have a hard time returning to the workplace because of, you know, is it safe? Should I be leaving? Should I be leaving my home? Like, if I'm going to be in a space with other people, is this okay? And then a lot of people that were working from home that actually don't enjoy that, or they have kids, or there's all these different things that don't allow for their space to allow for a professional environment. But how do we take a bridge for the employees to feel safe, and also the spaces to be able to welcome people back in a safe and healthy manner, to make sure that everyone is feeling like this is a good decision to move your company back into the workplace. So we developed that, and it's a bridge program where you can now filter for spaces that are adhering to local regulations. So for example, in the United States, it's CDC and obviously the WHO, and then of course, whatever they want to implement themselves. So a lot of spaces are even putting you know, temperature regulators, or a way that you can walk past and they can determine if, you know, somebody has a temperature. So some spaces have even gone to that extent. That's not a requirement by any means, but they went above and beyond. And of course, creating you know, space between their desks. So, you know, the WeWork model, which used to be, you know, you're shoulder to shoulder with a lot of people, that is no longer the case. So they have to implement the certain measurements to allow for people to return and, you know, have their own space, or providing more enclosed areas, and maybe not going into the open concept. So lots has changed. We've also become kind of a beacon for people and spaces to say, or to understand what it is that they can do in order to get ready to have people return to work. So there's been a lot of educating in that regard, and communicating, okay, this is what's happening with our partners in China. This is what's worked for them. Okay, let's bring that model over to Europe, and then of course extend that to the United States. So a lot of communication, and just really focusing on getting that bridge to bring people back to the workplace. Long-winded.
No, that's super interesting. One of the things I wanted to ask from here is, so what came through a few of the interviews that we already did now is that, yeah, a lot has changed, but also a lot of co-working spaces, even though they're adapting a lot, they're not investing in new technologies or changes right now, because everything changes so fast.
Mm-hmm.
What are you recommending in that sense to your clients? Because you said you've become this beacon.
Well, I would say, like, with regards to technology, the most important thing would probably be to partner with companies like ourselves, like Upflex, or people that are able to, whether like it's bring extra people in and fill your space in a time where, you know, a lot of people aren't going there, or a time where, you know, co-working has really suffered. Like we have to be honest about that was one of the first things to go, was to take people out of the office, right, and put them in their homes and work from there. Of course, with the jobs that we have, right, not essential workers that are going out and into the world, but people who can operate online were taken out of the workplace. So a lot of co-working places got hit hard. A lot of co-working spaces also operate on a month-to-month basis. So that's what part of the appeal is that I can go and have a 1-month contract and then cancel it at any time. So I'm not buying real estate for 10 years or something. So these companies suffered like a lot from that, because if you have all these short-term rentals, they're immediately going to cancel their contract, and then you don't have any clients. So using technology platforms like ourselves, and people that are, you know, companies that are advocating space, and also, you know, doing a lot of blogging and a lot of communication and things like what we're doing right now, and educating that way. That's a really great way to get your space recognized, and you know, people who might not know that you exist it's a great way to advertise yourself, even if you don't necessarily get customers directly through that platform. It's a way to get your name out there. So I think that's really important. Like I said, the safety component is really important for people. And everybody wants to know what's going to happen? What is it going to look like when I return? Because I don't want to be sitting across from somebody that I don't know. And I do want to be safe because then I have to go home to my family. But on the other hand, I really need to get back out of my house or get back into the workplace. So there's lots of technology that can help you with that. It can be quite expensive. So you need to kind of pick and choose during this time of what's most important. But I do think like the keyless entry is going to be a huge thing for people. Touchless, everyone's talking about touch surfaces, and this is the big trend right now. And you don't want to touch anything unnecessarily in a public space. So having like access purchasing through your phone, having everything, all of your merchandise or anything you want to purchase, whether it be a meeting room within a space, all of that can be managed through apps and through technology that is specifically geared toward co-working spaces, helping that be functional. And then any of those technologies that existed before COVID have been adapting to COVID and making sure that it's functioning for the needs of what's to come and the restructuring.
Okay, great. Then I wanted to ask a bit more about your experience from what you developed before, together with like the intense user testing you've done the last few months yourself in your team, about what you think is among like really, really important features for a remote team to work together properly.
So this is a discussion that we are always having, because again, being a technology company, a lot of our information is stored in a cloud already. So luckily for us, we've been doing that. And one thing that our CPO, Ginger Dollywall, she is always making us write everything down in every meeting. We're typing it out. There's documentation. Again, this over communication thing, which I get really bothered by if someone asks me many, many times, something that I felt that I have already been very clear about. I've had to like reflect on myself and understand that's a really important thing to be doing, is that communicate everything all the time. You're not there in person. And then when you go away to have your day and you're not, there to remind people what's going on, it's really important to continuously repeat information. So recording the information, storing it where it's accessible, and having a map so that people can access all that information. That's the best way to handle it, so that I can go and grab a document. I don't have to ask my colleague where it is, and communicating that all the time. Of course, meetings. I don't love having a million meetings all the time because it is very disruptive. And I feel like when teams are remote, they do it in almost as a way to show, hey, I'm here and I'm working, I'm online. The little light is on my Slack that shows I'm live. And I don't really subscribe to that. I'm really like, let's have meetings if we need them, because the flow of my day gets disrupted. And that's a huge thing that happens in the office space, right? So the amount of productivity and work you can get done if you limit your meeting time. Of course, keep them for strategy, or for if you're building something together, or have, of course, your team meetings, your all-hand meetings. But jumping on a million calls a day with your colleagues just because they're not in the office beside you to talk, and respecting that time, I felt has really worked. But this is stuff we've talked about, right? So I've had to be really vocal, like, hey, this doesn't need to be a meeting, send me an email, stuff like that. And that's been working for us. But with regards to technology, it's really, there's not so much that you need. It all depends on what you're doing, right? And Zoom has been amazing. We like Zoom. It works for us. And of course, just having the cloud, everything mapped out and accessible, so that you can find all the information and documents you need in order to do your job effectively.
Great. So from here, with all you've learned and done the last few months, what are your thoughts on the future?
So I guess I can speak to the co-working industry because of this, what the topic is here and what the future is going to be again. And like I had mentioned, they took one of the heavier hits in the market. So there are a lot of spaces, unfortunately, that won't make it through COVID because of the month-to-month contracts and the way things went in that regard, or they were just starting out, or even some of the bigger players, they didn't have a lot of money in the bank, so to speak. So they might have been also going month to month because they were doing fundraising or VC, things like that. So it is possible that some of the bigger players that we're used to seeing, might be acquired by someone else. And so that is probably going to be the future. However, as much as they were hit hard and we lost a lot of spaces and will continue to lose spaces over the year, co-working is going to come back stronger than ever. It's going to be needed more than ever. And that is because of the transition of companies, coming away from the headquartered model, wanting a more flexible lease. And also this huge, realization that, yes, we can work remotely. I don't need to have my team all in one space 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. So that shift is going to happen, and co-working spaces will be inundated with clients. And of course, adjusting to these flexible models and kind of changing, even their space and what the requirements are. So, for example, I love hot desking. I like walking into a space and just popping my computer open and, feeling whatever perspective I want to have that day, instead of having my own dedicated desk where I work every day. That's not really how I operate. However, a lot of these spaces are going to be taking that element away for a while because the open concept is not so safe. It's not really something that I think people want to be doing. Even companies that had open space offices within a co-working space, so maybe for 20 of their people, they're going to start creating boundaries between the people that are working there. So whether it be screens, or if they spread people out a little bit more. So the design of the spaces will change. And then of course the influx of customers is going to change. It's going to take some time, probably like fall to later in the year. But people will want to return to work. They don't want to work from home, but they also know that they don't want to commute to the office 5 days a week again. So somewhere in between is what the future is going to be. And then of course, making sure that the spaces can accommodate, a certain amount of people, which again, may change the affordability of things, because if you're not, using every little square foot that you have or a square meter that you have, creating more spacing, that can create a different pricing model. So I'm interested to see how that will also be affected.
Can you also already observe some changes
Mm-hmm.
in where the co-working spaces are localized in rural or urban area? Are there changes happening, or is it too early for that?
No, definitely not. And you have to also take into consideration that every single country, even like every district within a country, is different right now with how they're handling things, So like the United States is a very good example of like places that are open and places that are not open. So from state to state, it's different. Rural co-working is, I think they're going to suffer the most, unfortunately. If they were able to get government help, that's great if they could stay open. But I think if they can hold on, there's going to be a huge driver there. And that's something that I've been advocating for. And I always try to partner with spaces in rural areas, because those are the places where people want to live and work from. They don't need to be in the city center to do their job effectively. So I do believe more of those spaces will start popping up. And hopefully some are able to make it through this time, like financially they will be. But they definitely know that they have to be on board with these health and safety regulations in order to make the space feel safe for others. So I've been communicating with spaces all over, some that are in smaller towns or that are wanting to open during this time because the demand is starting to increase. But it's always going to be regional. It's always going to be based on the regulations, how far along they are in the reopening process after lockdown. But I do think that some of these methods and precautions are here to stay. Like the spacing issue, I think is really going to be a thing, because people didn't like that to begin with. You don't want someone in your direct vicinity. So that's going to be something that will be taken into the future. But yeah, it's nice that you mentioned the rural co-working. I'm a huge advocate for that. And people should just be able to work from where they need to.
Mm-hmm. Another pattern view that I would like to ask you if you have insight on is, do you see already different membership models emerging?
Yeah, absolutely. So at the moment, a lot of spaces immediately took away their day use. So like you can't just be a random person walking in off the street anymore, booking a day pass at a co-working space. A lot of people took that away. A lot of spaces took that away. Um, and of course, that's because they wanted to cater to their own membership. If they're already, only allowed to occupy maybe 60% of their space or 50% of their space, they have to first and foremost address their members that stayed with them during that time, making them feel safe, making sure they can return. So any like flexibility memberships went out the window to begin with, because they just can't allow for strangers to come in, or they just can't occupy the space because they're operating at a percentage of their capacity. So that is something that's been going on. So during these months, a lot of them did restructure their pricing model, or they removed a whole aspect of their membership, and then they were going into long term. Some people, like I said, reconstructed their offices completely and took away all the open areas and made them enclosed and maximized that. And for example, we actually reevaluated our membership pricing. So we are a membership based platform at Upflex, and we realized where the demand is coming. And so we knew that people are scared to be in open spaces with strangers or even with their colleagues. So we created a product which is private offices for duration, so flexible private offices, whether it be by the day, so that a team can go into an enclosed area and work together and do some strategy if they need to be together in person, or you can do that by the week or by the month, depending on how long. And then of course, if those people are done after a certain project, they can go back to their prospective environments and wherever they were working for or from previously. So for that, we've changed our product to accommodate that and accommodate what clients are actually asking for. And then of course, we're taking that to our spaces and letting them know, hey, this is what everyone's asking for. You might want to consider reflecting the demand. And I've noticed that a lot of people are going to that. That is the prediction. So yeah, I do see that like the flexibility model is not going to go away completely.
Mm-hmm.
I think the day passes will, not be so popular for a little while, but the flexibility is going to come into play, and then the memberships will have to reflect that. Mm-hmm.
At this point, where do you see the biggest challenges to be overcome and the role technology plays in that?
So that's a really good question. Things to overcome. That's a tough one. Can you give me some perspective on what you mean by that, or maybe an example of what how you would see that?
Um, so how do you make sure that people feel safe and can like develop long-term working situations at the co-working spaces, or how can you make sure that enough of the co-working spaces stay even in business for
Mm-hmm.
them to be an infrastructure
Okay.
to be available in 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, from your perspective, what is the biggest technological challenges that need to be faced to get through this crisis?
So when we talk about technology, like I wouldn't say like what's currently out there and available. I think that's already helping the spaces, of course. But when we talk about technology, we could also just talk about internet and communication and, getting the word out. I think that is the best way to mitigate these issues or to stay in business, for example. And again, partnerships, making sure that everyone knows who you are, that you're talking to people, that you're talking to the right people. If you want to talk about rural co-working or even just like intercity co-working, get involved in your community as much as possible, and find ways to make sure people know who you are and know that you exist, know that you have inventory like that, and also know that there is a solution to working from home. So again, lots of communication, lots online. Again, what we're doing is really important here today, and having those types of conversations. If you like, a good example, I guess, would be Notel. They're quite a major company out of New York City, and they're in many locations. They, were shut down when New York was shut down, and they weren't able to operate. So what they did was they used their space and provided it to essential workers for a place to rest, or some nurses and doctors, like if they just need a place to lay down or somewhere to go to be alone, or whatever it is, maybe to just eat and decompress without having to leave the city if they needed to be in proximity to the hospital or where they were working, or even if they couldn't go home, for example, because they might infect their family during this time. So they used their space during a really hard time, and that got them a lot of publicity. And I'm not saying, oh, they just did it to get the publicity, but it was really valuable to their branding and to their company and what they represent. And when they stepped up during a really hard time and offered their spaces at no cost to people that really needed it. So things like that. Again, like I said, getting involved in your community and ensuring that communication is there, and providing education like this to people that are looking to maybe get into a co-working space. But all of that can be done online, and I think that's the best way to go. But otherwise, co-working is an in-person experience. So technology, plays a certain role in it. But I would say that, just use the internet and use your networks and get to know people. And for another example would be the UK. I know they were having a lot of trouble actually getting financial support as co-working space operators, which was really troubling. And they were signing petitions and trying to get the government to actually recognize and provide them with these bailouts that a lot of other people were entitled to and getting, whether it be unemployment, etc. And they somehow fell into this no man's land, and they weren't eligible for this type of compensation. So as a space, you need to be motivated to go out and ask for that type of help, and spread the word. There was a lot of petitions that were signed, and I think it was eventually overturned, and they were able to get some financial assistance. But understanding how valuable a space is within a community and what they actually bring to the community, if that was recognized by the government, and now that it is recognized by the government, they understand the value, right? So that's a great way to stay in business during this time when you're financially, you're having financial hardship, or you don't know where you're going to be in the next 6 months.
So I would say the key thing right now is for people to learn about the possibilities of remote work, of co-working, and therefore being able to appreciate it and to keep that alive. Maybe the last thing, what are the solutions that a platform like yours could provide to enable people to learn about how to work remotely or work better remotely? And what is the main thing that you see there as an importance?
Yeah, so again, we are advocates within our company, and we do partner with a lot of education platforms. So we aren't an education platform. It just so happens that continuously we are educating people through our product and by giving the option and making it available. So partnerships with these education platforms, which there are many out there, we do promote them on our site. We promote them to companies that are considering using our product. So having a nice network is really great to offer those things where you might have a weakness. However, we do provide a lot of recommendations as to how you can structure your team. So there might be a team that needs an office of 20 people, and that's okay. That's okay if you want to go and have that routine. Some people need it, some people like it. But there might be 5 people on your team that don't, and they want to work from home. And then there might be another 5 that really enjoy working from co-working spaces, or one that's a little closer to their home. So our platform allows you to manage that or develop a system so that everybody can work the way that they need. And that's what we're really trying to do, to make it as flexible as possible, to have the most diverse team and the most functional aspect of flexibility that you can. But again, the education component needs to be left to the professionals, and there's so many out there. There's so many great resources. Even Remote, that's a great way to learn how you can do that and implement it. And it's going to forever be ongoing education, right? Because I think the industry is pretty new and technology keeps developing. So staying on your toes and really knowing what you can provide to your clients and making sure that they're getting the best resources available to them to make sure that this works and everyone's happy.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I think this is also a good point to invite Row Remote back into our conversation.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. So, Erin, that was really good. A couple of comments or further clarifications, if it's okay. I was making notes.
Oh, great.
So you said you partnered with a big provider, Erin, in terms of that safe spaces. What was the name? Are they a property? I just missed the
Colliers
Colliers.
International.
Yeah, I wonder. That's what I thought you did say, and I know them, so that I just wanted to make sure I had that right. And then, Erin, just a general question on the profile of some of the smaller spaces that may load inventory onto your system. Just because I'm sitting in one of the few, there's only 3 or 4 co-working in Zaragoza, okay? And the one I'm sitting in is an independent one. It doesn't have access, 24-hour access, which is an issue, right? And also, I'm actually looking at moving to one because we're going down to Tarragona for the summer.
Oh, lovely.
Lovely, in Cambrils, which is the same thing, a co-working in Cambrils, which is the same thing. So they're small, independent. So I've just been noticing potentially whether and thinking about when I was listening to you, if I put myself in the position of an independent owner who may have, because this is a huge space, have extra space that they may want to load on as inventory. Then you're mentioning Colliers, for example. I just want to understand what percentage potentially of your base is independence, Erin, or what kind of, how they fit into your overall model in terms of inventory being loaded.
You mean like an independent worker, like an independent employee?
No, like
Or
an
independent space?
an independent space. Do you know that? What?
So we have many on our platform,
Okay.
and again, I don't want to speak against any of our partners, but I love independent spaces. Like these are the ones that have character and in really interesting communities. So I think they're really important to include. Now, if and again, we have many on our platform. If you are to use your inventory, so you need to also consider what you have and what's empty and how you want to leverage it. So again, we allow for you to put, one hot desk on our platform if you want, or you can have, 10 meeting rooms and 50 private offices and 60 spaces for hot desking, depending on your capacity. So it's up to you to control it as the owner or the manager of the space. So you can go on and take it away and add it as you need to, as much as you want. But really considering short term and not always committing to, I need somebody in here for a month. What if there is a team of 4 people that just need a space for 2 days? Would you rather it sit empty, or would you rather people be in there? So finding ways to do that and fill the space, during times, maybe taking a little less money than you normally would. It's better to utilize and leverage that inventory, especially during this time when it's uncertain and people are just wanting to dip their toe in the water. So that's a really great way to do it. Put the inventory online. The requests come in 24 hours in advance. So if you just happen to fill them, we just can communicate that to our client and say, actually, this space is unavailable.
Okay, great. And can I check then, is there an initial cost just to load the inventory, or no?
Absolutely not. No.
Perfect. So, that was what I was double checking. And then wondering, like, for example, the bigger, I didn't see them on your list, but if we take, say, Impact Hub, for example, do you have Impact Hub, some of them loading in?
We have some of them, but we'd love to have their entire inventory. But it's very difficult because they have almost like a franchise model, right? So everyone's an independent owner. And so there's not really like one person I can go to can we get them all on? I have to talk to them as individuals.
Okay.
So we have them. Actually, we have Impact Hub Stockholm. We do have several on our platform, but we don't have all of them, but they have some amazing coverage. But we have partnered with some really massive companies in the last couple of months. Like WeWork is now a partner of ours. So we have about 700 of their locations on our platform. Industrious, and of course Talent Garden, which is a really great one here in Europe and fantastic. there are lots and lots of spaces all over, and they just, again, they pick and choose how busy that space is, and they adjust their inventory accordingly.
Okay, so because that's what's interesting for me, that there is no barrier, and to make that clear, I want that to be clear, and I've made some notes, to an independent owner who can meet the requirements for safety, who has maybe a separate space that they can load it, doesn't, the inventory on it doesn't cost them anything. And then, because I'm not sure that that's known in all of the communities, Erin, just to say to you, that's
Could be,
could be, you know, I know you're doing good marketing, but or to understand a little bit more about maybe why people know about it and then they still don't potentially get that as the option. But yeah, that was really interesting. There was nothing else I don't think I wanted to clarify. I checked on Collier's. Maria, with that extra question, did you, and clarification, was there anything else you wanted to ask, or all good?
I have no question at this point, but I find it very, very interesting how knowing what is possible is such a key issue for solving this whole situation.
Yeah, it is. It is. The people don't realize. And actually also, Erin, just so you know, your access, if you can provide that 24-hour access, I think you're providing that through a third party, are you, the access systems?
This isn't a company. Well, I'll just give an example. One that I'm a really big fan of. There are several out there, but one I'm a really big fan of. I know the founders. They're great guys, and they built a great product. Is Kisi, so that's KISI. We aren't integrated with them yet, but they have their own separate app and keyless entry, or you can use a key card entry in a lot of spaces, especially in the United States. They are a German company, I believe, but they are based out of New York. And every space that I know in New York City uses Kisi, and it's super convenient. And it's also a great way for the space to know who's in their building as well, right? So for safety, for security, it's really great. And then of course for this touchless entry, and maybe you don't want to interact with a person and have a receptionist lead you around and speak to you, or have someone that has to be there. This is a great way to overcome that, and also to allow for 24-hour access when maybe you don't want to be there and you just want to allow your members to come in and work late.
Okay, and can I just check the spelling of that? Thanks, Erin.
Yeah.
I'm just checking. How do you spell it again? I'm just looking for their website, actually.
KISI.
KISI.
Yeah, Kisi, it's pronounced.
Keyless entry, it should come up under. I'm using DuckDuckGo, which is not always, here we go, I found them, getkisi.com. Yeah. Okay, perfect, that's good. They haven't come up yet, just so you know, interestingly, in some of our interviews, but that's really good, and that might be something that we follow up on as well, so thanks for that.
No, absolutely.
Nacho, we've done an interview with Nacho, and he's using a different company on Gran Canaria, and they're actually a garage door entry company who by chance have moved into co-working, and you cannot find out anything about them. And I was laughing, saying if they didn't do good marketing, no wonder some co-working are going, how do I actually find out about this? So I think you also made the comment that some of this is new, it's a new industry, and I think there's a lot of evidence of that things are still not bedding down. And you also validated that when you said you've become the beacon for information about safety and these in response to COVID. So that was really interesting too. Now, if it's okay, can we stop recording, Maria, because I want to ask Erin a question.